On today's episode of Empowering Women in Real Estate, the podcast, we're going to be talking about Facebook groups that convert with Tina Beliveau.
Hi, I'm Karen Cooper, a wife, mom of three, real estate broker, team owner, and founder of Empowering Women in Real Estate. As a realtor, I've personally helped well over 700 families in my career, and now I help thousands of women from all across the country balance real life and real estate through daily inspiration, motivation, and actionable plans to increase their success. Listen in as I share stories and tips from my life and business and interview some of my favorite people.
Hi there. I'm glad you're here for today's episode. So I have a topic that I am very passionate about, obviously, because we're talking about Facebook groups today. We're talking about Facebook groups that convert, specifically Facebook groups that are around community farming, geographic farming communities, basically, to generate your real estate sales leads. And I'm very passionate about Facebook groups because I started a very large Facebook group, Empowering Women in Real Estate. It's been almost 12 years ago. And while my Facebook group is different, it certainly does generate a lot of business for me from a perspective of agent to agent referrals. We do a lot of that. It's not public facing, like it's not real estate sales focused. My audience are other real estate agents, but it really has and truly transformed my life and my business in the most unimaginable ways possible. And today I have a very special guest on the show, my friend Tina Beliveau, who she runs a real estate team. She's right around the Baltimore, Maryland area. She's been in business for more than 2 decades. She has a great model, and her team's business is run from her hyper local Facebook community group. And she has really dialed this in to such a degree that, I mean, it is so much of what she does is automated. If you love systems, then you're going to love this episode, especially. So I'm very excited for you to hear this. I think, I think Facebook has gotten a bad rap lately with, you know, Instagram and TikTok and, Facebook is kind of like the old place, right? But Facebook is where people go for groups. Like I can't go to Instagram and interact with a group. I can't, and actually I'm not even on TikTok, so I don't even know. I don't think you can go to TikTok and go on a group. I think you can only do that on Facebook. And these groups are very powerful. I've heard lots of, quote unquote experts say that the Facebook group is dead. And, I'm here to tell you, Tina is here to tell you, my business partner who does a high percentage of her business comes from her real estate Facebook group. Facebook groups are not dead. And just like with so many of the other things, pillars, sources that agents use to generate their business, their leads, you have to be consistent with it. You have to show up regularly. You have to have a system. And I think that's why a lot of people don't succeed with groups because they expect that they're going to get a lead on day one or day two or day three that's going to turn into a sale. And when that doesn't happen, it's like it loses its luster. And it's just like anything else in our business. If you want the long-term residual benefits and results, you have to be prepared to connect with it long-term. So Tina has she's amazing systems and she's going to share them today. She also is doing a boot camp right now, or has one that's starting, I think like a week after this episode airs, that's free. And it's all around creating your Facebook group. So you definitely want to listen to the episode, to get all of the details for that. So take a listen. This is all about Facebook groups that convert. And until next time, stay well. Tina, welcome to Empowering Women in Real Estate, the podcast. I am so happy that you're here with us today.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
So tell our audience a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, where you work, all that kind of good stuff.
Yes. Okay. So hi, I'm Tina Beliveau. I am an agent of 21 years. I am in the Baltimore, Maryland market. So kind of everywhere in the Baltimore metro and beyond has been my wheelhouse for this entire time. And I have done everything. So we'll talk a little bit about my journey, I guess. But I started in the industry as an executive assistant. I was on a team. And then I really built my business solo in earnest, starting in 2007, right as the market was beginning to turn, and really like cut my teeth in a challenging climate. And today's climate is different, but feels the same as far as like the difficulty. So I'm like, oh, this is very familiar. And it was a blessing because it really taught me so much.
Yep.
It helped me really build like a real skill set that
Mhm.
I'm still relying on to this day. So, yeah, built a successful solo business. I launched my team in 2013. So I've had a team for 13 years, which has been an achievement in my book to keep it going,
Yes, it is.
as you
Yes, it
know.
is. Yes, I do.
So our whole focus is like a boutique, small batch kind of approach,
Mhm.
repeat referral and organic social media. At our peak, we were selling about 50 million in volume. We've been averaging about 30 million in more recent years. I've had some interesting pieces of the journey. I spent some time running a brokerage. And at that time, I stepped completely out of production myself. So actually, for the last 10 years, I have not really represented buyers and sellers myself, except for very like occasional times. So that's been like an amazing upgrade for me with my work life
Yes.
balance, and created
Mhm.
space for me to pursue other things. And in my time running a brokerage, I realized that I love coaching and teaching
Mhm.
agents. So
Mhm.
that's kind of become maybe like 50% of what I do now. So got a course, I've got a podcast, I have a lot of tactics that I teach. And so I do that alongside of running my team. So I feel like I have the best of both. I'm very blessed.
Yeah.
And my kids are 2 and 4. So
Oh.
that's the most important thing in my life. I don't know why I didn't lead with that, but yeah.
Well, you know what? You and I have so much synergy, and there's so many things that we do similarly. And I could hit on multiple things that you said, right? Like stepping out of production, but still, stepping out of, and I hate to say the word stepping out of production because then that sounds like you have nothing to do with the business anymore. But,
Yep.
you like me, continue to generate income in real estate, continue to prospect, continue to bring business in that's served by your team. I do the same thing. And it is the biggest upgrade. And I think sometimes I don't know that our industry wants us to think of it that way. Like, because if you're not the top, we can go down a whole tangent here, if you're not like the top producer with the biggest whatever, then you're not valuable in our industry. But really, it is the biggest upgrade when you can, continue to function in this business, generate business, but do it in a different way. And I love that you are doing, I didn't start doing that for myself in my business until my kids were, teenagers. I love that you're doing it with your kids, being 2 and 4. It's an entirely different life that you have built.
Yeah, I feel really, just to be candid, I see people building their business from scratch with small children, and I just think it's incredibly hard. Not to like
Mhm.
put a limiting belief on
Yep.
it, but like it's
Yep.
very hard. I'm very grateful I built my business pre-kids. It
Yeah.
did create the opportunity for me to have a foundation where the pivot to being, and you're right, like I don't know if out of production is the right term. It's like the
Yeah.
industry term
Yes.
for it. I'm very involved with
Yeah.
the client facing side, but I'm
Mhm.
so lucky I get to do the things I love the most. I
Yeah.
spend time with people. I plan the events. I'm on social media. I stay in touch. I'm sort of the second line of defense if clients want to run something by me. And it's just lovely. So I've really been
Yeah.
able to like kind of set my business up, because I think, every agent is so different. And
Mhm.
I've been able to set my business up to figure out, really working in my strength zones. And there are
Yes.
certain things that are my strength zone, but they just don't align with my work life balance goals. Like
Mhm.
I am a really, really great listing agent. Um,
Mhm.
but I want to not be on call. It's
Yep.
the bottom
Yep.
line, right?
I with you. Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I've figured out how to set it up to work as well as
Yeah.
possible. And I think like one of the things that's so interesting about building a business, and in particular a team, is like you just sometimes have to experience what you don't want to figure out what
Mhm.
you do want, and then start to
Totally.
finesse that. And I think sometimes along the way, it can be very easy for us. I'll speak for myself, to feel like, oh, am I in the completely the wrong direction? Or,
Right.
it can be very lonely and confusing
Yeah.
when things aren't working, but maybe you don't know why, or haven't seen someone do it quite the way that it's like the way I'm doing it now. There was not
Yeah.
anyone around me who
Yep.
was like doing it that exact way that at least I had
Yep.
access to. I'm sure there was somebody
Yep.
out there.
Yep.
So I think it's just such a personal journey to set your business up to really work. And it's
Yeah.
it's hard, and it is so worth it.
It is so worth it. And so many things that you just said, like, it's true. There were multiple phases of my career as well where I felt like, okay, I knew I wanted to do this differently. I knew I wanted to experience something different, but I didn't have any models or examples. And like you said, they probably were out there somewhere. I just didn't know them or didn't have access to them. And so I love that we're having more conversations like this. You know, there was a podcast episode I just had out last month. It was 393 with Carrie McDonald. She's a top producer on my team. She's a mom with little kids. And, you know, she really kind of talked about this, like really like what is enough in your business
Yes.
and you know what is enough and it's going to be different for everybody and it's going to be different in every season and you know there's so much that we could really hammer on as far as that's concerned. The thing that I love about this business, and I think hearing from you, it's the same for you, is that we really have been able to design. I remember for years thinking I want to design my life the way I want. Like I want to design my life. I want to design my business. And I feel like with a lot of trial and error, and sometimes you have to be in it and try it, like you said, right? You have to see what you don't like. You have to, there's a lot of self-reflection involved, but it is really possible to do that. I've done that, you've done that. And it's the biggest blessing.
It really is. Yeah. And I think there were times where it's like I knew how my life, how I wanted it to function. And
Yeah.
then there were two things that got in the way. It was like not necessarily like it was often not having the model of
Yep.
giving me that like permission to do it differently. And then the other thing that I think and talk about a lot is there's like such a natural tension between, on one hand, being wildly ambitious and creative and having lots of idea. It's just that I just imagine a horse and it's the year of the horse, right? It's just
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
horse just wanting to gallop. And then
Yeah.
there's this other part of me that is like, well, okay, but what's enough? And what about my family? And what about my attention? And what about how much I'm looking at my phone and my
Mhm.
emotional energy for my husband, you know, like, and
Yeah.
on and on and on. And like,
Yeah.
there is a natural tension between those two things. And I think I'm just constantly navigating that.
Mhm.
And I love when people talk about that because I
Yeah.
think it can just be very confusing of like,
Yeah.
which voice do I listen to and why?
Yeah.
And it's just
Well,
a
because I
process.
think we're taught not to, right? I mean, I think we're taught that in order to be successful in the industry or in whatever, like you have to go all in on your drive. And if you can do 10 more, then you should do 10 more, not like thinking, okay, yeah, I could do, like you said, like you're a great listing agent, but you don't want to be on call right now. Same with me. You know, that was always my skill set, but I don't want that anymore. And so just because we can doesn't mean that we should. And I think
Yes.
this is why it's so important for women like us to have these, because I like you know, we're both very driven. We have a lot of things that we want to do, that we want to accomplish. You can't necessarily do them all at one time, but it's so important for us to have these conversations and to support each other and to promote each other because we don't get to see the models. Like I was looking at, and no shade, I know a lot of men that are incredible team leaders. You and I both have great teams, very successful teams that we run differently, I think, than most teams. And I saw promoted recently this team leader mastermind, which, you know, amazing, right? Team leader. I'd love to be a part of something like that. And it's five men
Don't
speaking.
get me started. Okay.
No, listen, and five white men at that. So you can't, you know,
Yep.
you're going to tell me that there is literally zero diversity that's available in the team leader space. Like we could really go down a whole rabbit hole here. What would you like to say about that, Tina, before I get too fired up about that?
Oh my gosh, it's infuriating. I like once had like a really weird, because I'm like not one to ever call things out because it's just not my personality. But like someone put something together a few years ago and I was like, where are the women? And they were so defensive. And I was like, whatever. I like you. And you're like the shining example of this. I'm like just trailing in your footsteps, but I'm just so obsessed with helping women. And like I had some really great male mentors in the
Yes.
like heavy growth team building era chapter
Mhm.
of my business, but it also wrought a lot of destruction in a lot of ways. You know, I call it like the Grant Cardone like 10x mentality,
Yeah.
more viewing like I think there's nothing wrong with the well there are things wrong with the masculine lens
Yeah.
for sure but like
Yeah.
I think I was looking at my team through more of a masculine lens and sort of leadership and being like really like strict and holding people accountable and like all of this
Yeah.
stuff like which sounds great like in a book
Yes.
in a leadership book but
Mhm.
like it and I was able to do it but it wasn't A, it wasn't me. B, it
Mm.
didn't feel the best. So like
Yep.
I run my team. Like I was asked to be on this other podcast and I was just like, I don't think they want to hear from me. I don't have meetings. Like I hate meetings.
Same.
I don't do accountability. We don't have an office and we never will. I am not going to hold people to standards that they just aren't naturally
Yeah.
striving for themselves because it's mean. Not mean
Yeah.
like, oh, mean, but like
Yeah.
I spent time trying to change people and trying to
Yes.
get my team members to be like me. And
Yep.
no one is like me, and I will never be like them. They're on my team because they don't want to have to do some of the things I do. But I think like just a lot of like my personal growth trajectory was like there was
Yeah.
just so much projection early on
Yeah.
of projecting my standards, my idea of success, my idea of what hours you should work. And I just caught myself doing it the other day. I was talking to my best friend about like just the tension of mental load in my marriage. And, my husband's like executive functioning is totally different than mine. Our personalities are foils. Like, this isn't news. We've been together for 20 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
19 years. Okay. Like, I was just
Wow.
doing the math. So, like, I'm like, why am I holding him to the standard of how I do my day? So, like, that's just like a very natural trap for me to fall
Yeah.
into as a
Yeah.
leader or a wife, apparently. So yeah, and I think like having a lot of masculine thought leadership, it just took me in a direction
Yeah.
that made it harder to hear myself.
Yes.
And I think there was just, and I started my team young. So I think, some people come into this space and maybe they've already led or they're 40.
Mhm.
Like I was
Mhm.
23 when I started employing people.
Wow.
I literally had people ask me how old I was when I was interviewing them early on. You know what I mean? So like I just
Yeah.
didn't have
Yeah.
experience. And so
Yeah.
anyway, all that to say, like, it just took me time to really understand like separately. It's almost like boundary stuff, like what's me,
Yeah.
what's them, and
Yes.
how do I just create an environment where everyone can be the best version of themselves
Yes.
and take what I do that I'm really good at and just let that fuel them versus
Yep.
expecting them to do that and just
Yes.
complement each other. Just a little easier said than done, but it took time. But I'm so
Yeah.
grateful that I have that now with my team.
When we all have our zone of genius, right? We all have our things, and it's not that we don't want to take time to learn new things. I'm like obsessed with growth, and I love learning new things and maybe trying new things, but there are certain things that are going to be very countercultural to me that are not authentic to me and are not going to make sense and are not ever going to make sense. And so why would I spend so much time in that place? And same with my team members, right? And it sounds like same with you. Like everybody, the person who is very happy and satisfied to do 2 to 3 million in sales volume a year, that they're not less than the agent whose goal is to do 20 or 30 million in sales volume per year, right? Like we all have our different like strengths, focus, trajectory, path. And I think the faster we can learn to lean into what it is for each of us, right? What is that saying? Like, don't expect you from other people. Like the
Yes,
the
that.
faster we can lean into that, the better everything is going to be. There were so many years of our business that was a struggle. When we tried to like put in quotas and imagine, and you've got this happy team of women and moms, and suddenly we decided to institute quotas because somebody said that we should, and it practically destroyed our team. And
And can I just add in? And then,
yes,
like, to me, quotas are ridiculous if your business is referral based
totally.
because
Yep.
it's so seasonal. You don't totally control where your business comes from if you
Yeah,
don't do some form of prospecting. It's also a setup, aside from any other dynamics that you were probably about to describe, but it's like a setup to just not hit the goal
absolutely.
probably 6 months out of the year. It's
Yes,
just like,
yes,
it
yes.
doesn't make sense. It doesn't
Yes.
make sense.
Yes. Well, and for us, what we found is suddenly it was the craziest thing because suddenly we had team members that were so afraid that their friend on the team wasn't going to hit the metric. And so they were trying to figure out how to like partner with them and refer business to them so that they
Oh my
wouldn't
gosh.
like, and then people were so panicked about it, like their productivity actually went down. And so for us, like, and kind of like you, like I almost feel that imposter syndrome sometimes when people ask me to talk about team things because I feel like we're so different because other people are talking about, they've got the morning huddle call and the like that is so not who we are. And it's okay because there's lots of different ways to do it, right?
Yeah. And one of the things I was thinking about in what you just said is sort of this like concept of just like psychological safety, right?
Yeah.
And like when it's not
Totally.
there, like productivity does go down.
Yes. Hmm.
And it's very counterintuitive if you do have any thought leadership entering your orbit that's like
Uh-huh.
saying like there's power in track. There's just a lot of paradoxes with all of it. Like there's power in
Yeah.
tracking, but
Yeah.
for me only to a degree, especially
Yeah.
in a business that is like a service-based people business
Mhm.
where a lot of what you can control is just the leading indicator activities and the outcomes are somewhat unpredictable
Yes.
or they come in bursts or they don't always happen on the timeline you think because it's just like people this people business is not just a math equation. 10
Yeah.
calls, one referral. It
That's
just
right.
so
Yeah.
so if you've been feeling that way, I give you permission to just be like, okay, like what
Yes.
can I focus on?
That's right.
Like doing
That's
an
right.
amazing job for the client. And what I'm like for me, like what can I focus on? Having really, really great systems,
Hmm.
being strategic about when I do ask for the review, being
Hmm.
strategic about, what I post and when, things that are sustainable for me. It's just what can you control?
Yeah. Yeah. And controlling, I think, too, when we can focus on what really like, and I heard you say this when you were talking about early on, is like what we love, what we enjoy.
Yes.
I am not going to be, I've never been a cold caller. I'm not going to be a cold caller. I'm like, I would never succeed at that. I would never be consistent at that. Like it would never make sense for me. I would never be successful at that because it is just so not me. So like, finding what is you and then going all in on that, right? Whether it's content creation or the ultimate customer service experience or,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it is. So,
And you know what that makes me think of? Because I know this is
yeah.
something we wanted to touch on is like
Yeah.
one of the things that's working really well with me for lead generation. But what's interesting about it is basically I started my team in 2013 and then 2016 through 19, I was running this Keller Williams office. So I was
Mhm.
very like out of my business. I was the most out of my business I've ever been at that time. And when I came back into my business in early 2020, I was basically in this crazy situation where everyone on my team, except for one person, had exited in sort of this mass coordinated exodus, which, it happens with
It
teams. But when it
happens.
happens
Yes.
to you, oh my God,
Yeah.
right? It was not an easy time. And because my business was referral based and I give a lot of leads to my agents, I basically lost a chunk of my database.
Yep.
So I was rebuilding my team at a new brokerage. My self-esteem was kind of trashed at the time because it was just not an easy time. I was hurt and feeling very like responsible for a lot of what had happened. So like I wasn't in my, it's like it's hard to build when you're feeling that way, right?
Yes.
So I needed to rebuild my database, new brokerage, kind of coming back to my database after being absent. And I was about to run my old playbook of like, all right, let me have a launch event, let me get everyone together because I'm like an events girly. And then COVID, like boom. And I was like, what am I doing? How am I going to do this? And and I don't know if this resonates, but like sometimes I get frustrated when what used to work stops working
Yes.
because I just want it to work forever. It's
You want
easier,
it to
of
work
course.
forever. Yes, that's
Yeah,
right. That's
totally.
right.
Or like I can compare myself to past versions of me too, which is like really
Yeah.
unhealthy.
Yes.
So like I had to kind of grapple with all of that in this like very short window of time, but it did force me to be like, okay, because I am creative, I am smart, and I was like, okay, like how can I rebuild my business? And also, I was so burned out by that point. I was like, and I have to find a way to do it that I enjoy, that is basically at home. I was becoming a mom in this time.
Yeah.
So it created this like freedom for me ever since of what I've been doing. So long story longer, the first thing I did was launch a Facebook group for my client base,
Perfect.
which has been great for me. And it was successful out of the gate. I still have the group. And what actually happened more than anything was it reignited my love for Facebook. And I know you're,
Uh-huh.
of course, with
Yes.
your massive
Yes.
group, Facebook groups are amazing.
Yes.
And I had had this dormant, geographically focused group for years, back from when I used to farm postcard style. And I had had this group just sitting there with like 200 people in it for a long time. I didn't even have my notifications on. But because of the pandemic, the group just started growing a tiny bit to the point where one day I was like, oh, I need to go in there. Oh, let me put my notifications on. Like, oh, my name isn't even on this. So that was late 2020. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for this and I'm going to really turn this into a lead generation funnel. So it's been about 5 years since
Wow.
then of building. And in that time, we've gotten to 10,000 members. And this is just one zip code in my suburban area. I actually checked the census data. There's only like 15,000 people in the
Wow.
zip code on like the last census. So it's like I've captured what,
Holy smoke.
66% of
Yes.
my of this zip code in this group. My team has closed about 20 million in volume just from leads we've generated through that group, which for us is like $600,000 in gross commissions. I've grown my database. I've created this like specific email list and newsletter that just nurtures that area. And I've become like the unofficial mayor of the zip code. The zip code didn't even have a brand, it was just,
Yeah.
it has a name that's a mouthful, Lutherville Timonium. It's like,
Yeah.
what's that?
Yeah.
So, and what I've done is like really turned the group into a reliable lead generator, but also just like my brand. Like I am definitely the number one mentally associated agent with this zip code, and it's helped me raise my average sale price. So I say
Amazing.
all of that to not to just be like, oh, look at me, but like
Yeah.
Facebook groups are amazing. And
Yes.
I, since launched a course for agents, and I've taught a lot of people how to do this. And I'm just so passionate about it. And here's what's so funny is on Monday, 2 days ago, as of this recording, I was like, you know what? I'm ready to start a subgroup just for moms. I've been thinking about it for
Hmm.
years.
Hmm.
So I'm going on this journey again of building another group. I do have this group of 10,000 that I could promote in, and I've got 300 people joined it since Monday. I went in before we recorded. People are already
Yeah.
starting chatting, asking about pediatricians, like
Yep.
exactly what I expected.
Yep.
And everyone wants to meet up because my other group is less like in persony. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this is gonna be huge because I'm just gonna make new friends, and I'm
Hmm.
like ready to be out more. My kids are older, etc.
Yeah.
I'm like ready to do more. So I'm very passionate about this, but this is how I've rebuilt that piece of my database that I was never going to get back.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And thank you so much for getting us around here because this was actually the topic that we wanted to discuss today
Yes.
before we went down the rabbit hole of the injustices of the real estate industry.
Yeah.
But yes, I love so much that we're going to talk about this today because a lot of agents talk about building Facebook groups or building Facebook pages. And then I see them, they don't see success right away or they don't see leads right away, which I think is if you're
Hmm.
thinking that right off the bat, it's not going to work. Or
I
they
love
don't see
you. Go
growth,
on.
right? And so then as a result, they say, well, this doesn't work. Facebook groups don't work. I heard somebody on a man on a thing recently is like, oh, Facebook groups are dead. And I'm like, well,
Oh man.
beg to differ. But
Yep.
anyway, so I love that we're talking about this. My business partner, she started a group herself called Leesburg Moms, and she now has 8,000 women in this group, right? You should check it out. I'll tell her to let you in. And
Okay.
a high percentage of her business, and she has a ton of business every year, comes directly from this group. So it's so powerful. So tell me more of I love the specifics, the logistics. Like,
Yes.
so
Yes.
you reinvigorated this group. What does that look like? What do you spend your time on? All the things.
Yeah. Well, and here's why groups are amazing. And you do have to think long term. It's just like building a database. Like the payoff is later. It's so hard to weather that in between. So I feel like you need something in your corner, a coach or like really strong motivation to know like this is a long term lead gen funnel.
Yeah.
And it can sometimes have a quick short term result, but like mindset, like you have to know that going in. Really anything that works long term that makes your life easier is tends to be the slowest in the beginning. So that's just like one of those like paradoxes of real estate as well. So in the beginning I was really focused on growing the group, and I didn't have a clear plan on how I was going to get leads because early on I decided like no advertising in the group except one Saturday a month is small business Saturday, and I didn't want to violate my own rule and be cheesy. So there was sort of like this integrity question that a lot of, I'm
Yep.
sure you're nodding your head because like this comes up a lot where people are like, well,
All
how
the
do I
time.
promote myself in a good way? So I'll talk about that. But in the beginning, it was very like I wasn't marketing myself at all. I was just focused on creating like a really great environment where people valued the group. And then it started to have, when the group grows, the Facebook algorithm is so much kinder than Instagram. It's one of the many reasons I love
Yes. Yeah.
Facebook because you don't have to do hooks and B-roll and,
Mm-hmm.
figure all that out and edit video. Like it's much more straightforward. And like, I think one of my skills is, I don't know why, but I've just always understood with marketing to consumers, like you really have to think about like what's in it for them
Right.
and like what would I want? And like I guess I'm just able to see that a little more easily. So like very early on, I was like, if I just lived here, like, I don't want to see listings, I don't want to see ads. Well, what do I want? So I just really focused on building crowdsourcing oriented content in the beginning.
If you're listening to this and thinking, I know what I should be doing, I just need a clear plan and follow through, I want to tell you about the Empowering Women in Real Estate Inner Circle. This is not a mindset membership, it's tactical. Inside the Inner Circle, I teach my exact real estate systems the same ones my team and I have used for more than a decade to build consistent referral-based businesses. We cover how to generate business through your database, geographic farming, social media, and relationship-based prospecting, right down to the templates, scripts, and workflows. Every week, you get a plan of the week that tells you exactly what to do step by step, so you're never guessing what matters most. You also get access to the high level monthly trainings I do for my real estate team, a dedicated monthly mastermind, quarterly business reviews, and annual business planning. If you're done piecing things together and want a proven system you can actually follow, the Inner Circle was built for you. You can learn more at empoweringwomeninrealestate.com, click on Inner Circle, and when you use promo code first month free, you'll get your first month of the program on me.
So it occurred to me, everyone who owns, and I'm targeting people who own a home ideally, but there's plenty of renters in there for sure.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, everyone always needs contractors. So one of the things I did to get my group active was I did something called Trade Tuesday. And I templated a post, and it was the same post every single Tuesday for like 6 months. It was just a different contractor. Like, hey, everyone, let's build a list of the best painters, the best lawnmower, like just everything. And with Facebook, you can schedule your post 60 days out.
Yep.
So just once every 2 months, I would sit and schedule out all my Trade Tuesday posts.
Fantastic.
And they got great engagement. And then I like built them into a guide. So like that's one of the things I always encourage people to do is create like a recurring post like that actually is something people like would see value in. And then I just started playing with different things. So I have Small Business Saturday. It's the third Saturday of every month. It's the free for all. Anyone can promote any company, theirs or somebody else's. And then on the first of the month, I do an events thread, what's happening in the area, comment with anything, whether it's like your thing or something you're going to go to or your friend's business. And like, I just got the content off the ground enough. And then the group at some point, you have enough people and someone starts the conversation that isn't you. And then, I mean, that's what happened today. I was like, there were 2 posts, pediatrician and a park meetup. And I was like, yes, like it's happening. So like people just follow each other, right? And then the algorithm rewards that and all of that. So I always tell people it really helps to recruit a few allies when you're launching your group, your lender, your title company, your bestie, your mom, like it doesn't matter. Some people who will like commit to engaging. And then you just like text them. Like I text people a link to a post. Like I just posted this. Can you comment and say something about like, just make it simple for people. And like, that can really help to get the traction. So I think that's like the general content of like, what do people want to see? And I would say, and I've, once you run your group a while, you get stats and insights on the admin level. And the highest engaged posts are always people asking for advice of some kind.
Absolutely.
The best auto repair shop all the time.
Yeah.
And people just keep posting new stuff. And like, that's totally fine. It just keeps the group really active. So that was kind of what I was doing in the beginning. And then I started getting more crafty, and none of this is like earth shattering. I just feel like sometimes people just don't put all the pieces together, but I made sure my about section was really strategic and mentioned me and had like a link to, like my best lead capture place. I have a welcome auto post that goes up every Tuesday and tags everybody who just joined. And it says like, by the way, this group is run by Tina Beliveau, Lutherville resident realtor of 20 years. If you ever have a real estate question, call, text, email, all the points of contact.
Awesome.
I have a scheduled post on Small Business Saturday because sometimes I would forget to do my own post because I'm busy.
Your own, yes.
Yeah. So like that's now and I templated all this and now my VA schedules everything for me.
Fantastic.
So it's like, I actually do nothing in my group at this point, except monitor when I get tagged and comment on things when I have time. And I'm so focused on my agent facing business. I say this all the time. If I put more energy into my group, I could probably get 3 times as much business out of it. I'm just doing the low hanging fruit.
Yes.
And that's still so much.
I love how systematized you are, right? Because I think one of the things that people think when they think Facebook group is they think, oh my gosh, it's so much work. And it is a lot of work. But when you can systematize it like you have, right? And I have the same with my big group with Empowering Women in Real Estate. We have certain posts that go out on certain days that are scheduled out. And then it kind of takes that element of it away. How do you handle your rules? Like, I'm always fascinated with groups like this, right? Because, I had a rant on my stories recently about something like this. Do you let other realtors in your group?
Nope.
What? Yep. See, I told you.
I mean, there are some in there, and there are some that like scoot in, but like I reject realtors. I want to say one thing about how I do very little in my group, which is so funny. This is probably 3 years ago. People started complaining that I wasn't approving posts fast enough because I was, and like, again, like I generally keep it positive, but I just was
Yeah.
like, hey, everyone, like, just so you know, like, I run a business, I'm a mom, like, I cannot check all day. So, like,
Yeah.
and by the way, if someone wants to help me, you're welcome to. And then two women, the women who'd been complaining, were like, we'd love to help you. I
Oh,
have two volunteer moderators who do
amazing.
all of the post approvals. They remove things when they get problematic, and they've been, I get a chill for some reason. I'm so grateful for them. I should like send them a gift or something. Like I tell them all
Yeah.
the time, but like we have figured out how to run the group together, because when we
Yes.
started to have the issues where people would rant and be negative and
Yep.
whatever, I was sort of like, oh, because I am very conflict avoidant in a certain way, especially like it's that realtor part, right? Like I don't want to make any enemies. I don't want to
Yes.
have any issues online. I don't want you to Google
Yeah.
me and see me saying something crappy. So like I just don't
Mhm.
ever. So it was sort of
Yeah.
uncomfortable to be like, how am I going to moderate this? I don't want to tone police, but some people need to be tone police. Do you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
like,
Yeah, for sure.
so we've developed group rules over time. I'm actually just going to pull them up, but the biggest one is be kind,
Yeah.
because I'm sure you know this, but if any of you, anyone who's been in a group knows that like people just can get really unhinged really
Hmm.
quickly.
Hmm.
And it's certain topics for a geographic group that go the wrong way.
Yeah.
Crime,
Yep.
because people just go off in the comments,
Yes.
racism, classism.
Yep.
It's terrible. So we just said this group is not Nextdoor, like nothing about crime,
Mm.
nothing about politics, and nothing even about area development. There's like a development and people go off in the comments about the kinds of people that would live there if it's apartment. Like it's sickening.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've just have like really, we're really have like clear boundaries of just like those topics aren't allowed. And another thing I had to learn is if someone's really nasty in a comment, they always do it again.
Mm.
I just had to see that happen to be like, okay, we just block and remove the first time, because
Yeah.
it just becomes more work for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
And aside from the fact that like my group is really well run, people love being in it because it's the only group they're in that isn't
Yep.
toxic in a lot of
Yes. Yes.
cases.
Yes. And there
So,
is really something to be said for that because so many of the Facebook groups have become so toxic. It's effort to run them. It takes work to weed
mhm,
out that kind of stuff. And so that's how a lot of groups kind of, I think, get unhinged. And
yeah,
so when you have a well-run group like ours, I think people they want to be a part and they want to be active. You talked about your small business Saturday. How are you balancing, and maybe are there other times that you're posting for yourself? How are you balancing like supporting the community, but talking about your business, but not
yeah.
turning it into a sales pitch? Like, how do you do all that?
So, and I will say again, like if I was more like obsessed with my team doing the most production, I would actually probably just do some more creative things in the group, like a monthly video where I just say like, here's what's happening in the real estate market and just sort of educating. So I think that something like that is a great idea. But the things I'm doing specifically for lead capture is number one, when people join the group, there's a question that says, are you moving or thinking about buying or selling? And then if they say yes in the box, I used to PM them myself, and you have to PM them before you accept or they disappear. And then I eventually templated a standard message. And now my moderators know to not approve realtors and to always leave pending members that have answered that
Email.
question.
Yep, that's what we
And
do.
then my VA goes and sends the standard message, and some people, and like some percentage of them respond. And then I convert, and then I take it over and convert from there and get them in my CRM and get them on like a drip for listings or whatever. So that's like the front end where I find some, level of hand raisers. And then some people just don't respond. It's fine. It's like a PM. Like it's again, like I don't like to bother people, but that's like a level where I'm like, it's okay. Like some people may not like it, but like I can live with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the other thing I started testing, it happened when my group crossed, I remember it was 4,000 people. I did my first giveaway, I think. And like a Kava had just opened here and everyone was
Mhm.
so excited. So I was like $40 for 4,000 members to Kava, like not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I'd already been doing some giveaways on my main. So I'm like the giveaway queen. Like,
Yes.
giveaways were so big on Instagram at one point to gain followers, but I was like, no, like I want email addresses. Like I want to get people in
Yeah.
my database. So I'd already been playing with it and kind of figured out what works. So I created like a really great form. I use Jot form because it's like super mobile friendly and I can make it do all the things I want. And then to enter the giveaway, people just have to fill out the form. They have to give their name and email. And then there's a box to check. Are you thinking of buying, selling, or are you curious about the value of your home? And then there's like, no, I'm just here for the giveaway, like as a checkbox.
Yeah.
And if they say yes to any of the buying, selling, or whatever, then like another thing pops up asking for their address. So
Mm.
I just built something really functional. And then I do a live drawing for the giveaway every time on a Facebook Live. I use Wheel of Names and people see it's
Yeah.
like a random winner. And then I put everyone there's a little disclaimer when you enter, you consent to receiving an email from my team. And then
Mm.
everyone goes in my database. And they also all go on my specific email list. Like I do a monthly email about the market just to that area. So they get 2 emails a month, my main newsletter, and then my like farm newsletter. And then all the leads go in I use Follow Up Boss. So they all go in there
Yeah.
and then I reach out to every single one and, just have like a simple message. So I get people to raise their hand to me. And I
Yeah.
found with my group, a quarterly giveaway is like the perfect cadence.
Nice.
I've had giveaways where I'll have like 250 people enter and
Wow.
I've never spent that much. Like the one that my most popular one is crabs. People in our region love their
Yeah.
steamed crabs. I
Yep.
did it wasn't even like a bushel, it was just like a dozen crabs. And I had like 250 people enter,
Next.
tons of leads, and everyone like, thank you, thank you, thank you. So like, it's just like a good vibe. So giveaways, that's it. And then I've built a reputation in the group.
Yeah.
And whenever people ask for a realtor, I now almost always get all the comments. Like I get like half of them, but sometimes people don't see it. And then I text people the link and I'm like, hey, I have my like little tribe. I'm like, hey, can
Yep.
you like get
Yep.
it going? And then it
Yep.
starts to go. So it takes some time to get to all of that, but
Yeah.
none of it is hard. It's like a tiny bit
No.
techy and like having a little bit of not minding like asking, your friends. Like I think all of us need like a group text of like
Yep.
3 to 5 people that whenever
Yep.
there's a thread you need to be tagged in where you just send
Yeah.
it to your posse
Yes,
to have
that's
your
it.
back, it goes such a long way. And
Absolutely.
then all of your mutual friends see it and then it can just like
Yes.
build on itself.
It starts to snowball, right? It starts to give you that
Mm-hmm.
momentum. So I love so much of what you're doing. So what is your like conversion time? I'm sure it probably kind of varies, but like the standard like online lead, it's like takes 1 out of 100, right, to get a conversion, and a referral might be different. But with a group like this, are you finding that people are joining because they're new to the area, they're exploring the area? Or is it people who are already there that just heard about it? I mean, do you have like a turn time for when business results?
Great question. Frankly, it's a really healthy mix of all of that. There's definitely a lot of people who just bought and they're moving in and then they
Yes.
join the group. So like there's that. And then
Yeah.
there's the people that are the researchers and those are always the best leads. I can think about like a couple specific transactions where they were already living in the area but doing their move up and they've been in the group for a while.
Mhm.
So honestly, it's a little bit all over the map. I know that a lot of people do their groups more like moving to such and such area and I've in my observation and doing like some search engine optimization research and like migration patterns, I think those groups work really well in places where there's a lot of influx.
Yeah.
Maryland is not that. It's more an area where people move within. So that's why I
Right.
focused on this like living in concept. So if I think about it, I've got about 1,200 people on my list and 20 million in volume. So yeah, I would say I've probably had like a 5 to 7% conversion from my
That's
list
fantastic.
to closing. And I feel like it's so long tail, especially with
Yeah.
like our market right now where a lot of people are rate locked. Like I'm
Yeah.
convinced that over the next 5 years, I'm going to be blown away by like the
Yeah.
snowball effect of my group. So I feel
Yeah.
like I've just scratched the surface at this point.
Yeah, no, I think you have too. And I hope that our listeners, what they're hearing from you and from this is that it is a long-term thing. I mean, I think we're so trained, we have such short attention spans, and we're so trained to like chase the shiny object that's going to give us a lead and give us a transaction today. But, you and I have both been in business for more than 2 decades. I literally know nothing that you can do right now today that is going to result in like a signed contract today. Like that is just not how this industry works and how this business works. And you burn yourself out trying to chase those things instead of doing like what you're doing. Like everything you're describing is such like a gentle nurture process, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's genuine. You're nurturing your community. You obviously love your community. You're a part of your community, and so it allows for that. So one more kind of question, and then we'll start to wrap up for today. But we alluded to this and talked about this kind of at the beginning of the episode. Like, so for the woman women balance a lot of things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so for the woman who is in real estate, maybe newer in the business, juggling motherhood, talk to them. Obviously, doing business the way you are, doing business like this with a group is so powerful because you can kind of do this and build this from anywhere. Can you speak to that woman who needs to grow her business and build her business and why forming a community, a group like this could be so helpful to her?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I just feel so strongly that having just a core foundation of systems and simple things is crucial. So, like, some of this is just so obvious, right? But it's like, I find a lot of agents haven't figured out the CRM thing because it's like tricky, right? Or they tried one and they didn't like it, or they have one, but no one's in there. So, I always just say, like, you've just got to eat the frog. Just yesterday in my community of like my students, someone was like, I'm doing it and it like feels terrible, even though I know I need to. Like, I'm just going through all the data and getting the right phone numbers in the right place and like all of that. And I was like, I know your future self is going to be like
So
hugging you
happy.
for
Yeah.
that. Right. So I feel like foundationally, it's like picking a CRM and getting everyone you know in it, and then getting an email newsletter going to everyone in your CRM and figuring out something that, again, it's very similar to the group thought process of like, what would I want to receive, whether I'm thinking of moving or not right now. And that's like where my email newsletter comes from. And then having like an organic Facebook or Instagram presence. It doesn't have to be both. And being active on your stories. Cause I think
Yeah.
I talk about this with a lot of agents who are not trying to maybe take over the world with 70 transactions a year.
Yeah.
They just want to mine who they know and do it better.
Yeah.
That's just know, like, and trust and awareness. And that's
Yeah.
stories. It's not
Yeah.
follower game
Yes.
generally,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And there was something you were saying just a minute ago and about all of this with the groups and like why it's so powerful and gentle. And I also think like we all just, I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like almost all of us have this secret hope that we could just go viral and then everything would take care of itself, right? It's like a
Yes, but that's
long,
not the answer. Yes.
it's
Yes.
not the answer, and
Yeah.
it's just not how it works. So it's like
Yeah.
making peace with like this slow burn approach. So I
Yeah.
feel like knowing like you don't even need to gain followers, you just need to be
Yeah.
active on your stories. Like
Yeah.
it's not to denigrate it because I think a lot of it can still feel hard. There are like limiting beliefs and like feelings we experience about posting that are very, very valid. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, it really works. And then the
Yeah.
Facebook group is just like the perfect complement to that in my like little ecosystem that I've built,
Yeah.
because I'm not just building a group, which that in and of itself can be great, but I'm feeding it and running it back into a database and an
Yes.
email campaign where they're
Yes.
seeing and hearing from me in a multitude of ways. And I try to have at least one or two client events a year that are an everyone invite, where it's like a
Perfect.
lower cost per head. And I can invite my farm, I can invite people who are in my sphere but didn't transact yet, and just kind of run people through all of
Mhm.
those pieces.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I really answered your question, but I feel like I wanted to say, like, if
Yeah.
you're building, like, those are the components that work.
Yeah. Well, you're naturally building, I think we all live this, it makes me crazy when agents will come to me sometimes and they'll say, okay, I want to start farming and I'm thinking about this neighborhood because it's got this much turn and there's no agent that's doing more than X, right? Because there's people that teach that. And I'm like, you're doing that wrong. You want to farm where you live, like your community. Like there's no other place. Like these are the places that we live. It's so natural to do this. It's so natural to have a community group that's around where you live. It's so natural to have a mom's group around where you live. You're already showing up. They're seeing you in the grocery store. It allows your work to compound versus, mass sending postcards to a community that's like, on the other side of town because you think the numbers are better. And it's like, this is such a more natural way of doing things that I think is just, I don't know, you said the word gentle. Something else I want to point out that you said, and you said this twice, and I had this conversation with another woman yesterday, and you said, I forget what the term was, but like it's so obvious. It seems so obvious. But here's the thing. It's not obvious because if it
Yeah,
was, it is to us because we have done this for so long and this has been our focus and we've taken action and done the work. And so we've got the results. But for the majority of people, I think in our industry, it's not obvious because they haven't done it. If it was that obvious, if it was so simple,
you're
then
right.
literally everybody would have the Facebook group that's generating, 20 million a year in their community. And that's not what's happening because how many people talk about it and they don't take action on it, right? And I hear about it with podcasting. I'm going to start a podcast, and they're going to start a podcast for years before they actually do it. What do you want to say to that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's so much wisdom. And I'm laughing because I'm working with a new coach and I'm really upping my Instagram game. And like, I'm learning things about content creation for Instagram that I'm like, that's so obvious, but I just didn't know.
I
Like, my
didn't
coach was
know.
like, that
Okay.
font isn't readable and it does the best at the top, not in the middle or the bottom. And I'm just like, what? Like, yeah, like,
Yep.
and I've read every tip on Instagram about Instagram. You know what I mean? It's just so funny. So you're
Yes.
right. It's not obvious. There's so much we can absorb and there's so many different like channels to create in. So I think so yes, you're completely right. And I do think like the ultimate shortcut is to learn from someone who has done it and is willing to
Totally.
share. And
Yes.
like, this has been such a cool interview because you are a group expert. And most people that I've talked with about this don't know as much. So you've asked like the best questions
Oh,
ever.
thank you.
So,
Thank
but I
you.
think that highlights like, yeah, it isn't obvious, but it's doable.
So
And
doable.
coming back to that comment about like gentle, I think what I love about the group is like at my heart, I'm a teacher and I'm like a knowledge collector, organizer, and then disseminator. And
Yes.
groups are like the vehicle to help
Hmm.
people. And like,
Totally.
I love to recommend the pediatrician. I love to connect people who should know each other. And groups
Yes.
were literally like designed for that.
Hmm.
So it's just the anti sales place to
Totally.
be. And then you
Yeah.
just have to work in your sales strategically
That's it.
around that.
That's it. Being the resource of the resource. So I think you've landed us here to the perfect closing, which is I want you to tell everyone about, I know you have a boot camp that's coming up. As you said, a lot of this stuff seems obvious to us, but to other people, maybe it's not. And so there is no better way to fast track your success than to align yourself with someone that you can learn from. So tell us about your boot camp. Tell us about your programs. Kind of wrap us up with that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you again for being willing to let me share about it. So I have like a comprehensive course with agents. My whole brand is called High Performance Agent. So that's my account is at High Performance Agent. If you want to come say hi, I would love to chat.
On Instagram, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
on Instagram. Yes. And then I've got a podcast called the High Performance Agent Podcast. And then my course by the same name, High Performance Agent Academy. So that is like my everything course where I've like packaged up all of my systems, my Facebook group for my clients, my digital farm, which is what I call my local Facebook group, what I do for Instagram, Facebook, what I do for events, all my other organic social media strategies. But what I do that is cooler, in my opinion, besides like the lead gen, is every template I use in my business, every form, every
Amazing.
email, transaction checklist, team member onboarding checklist. So it's like my business in a box, like a $30 million. My business has done $30 million a year since
Wow.
2014, if not more.
Wow.
So it's proven. It's not just someone that went viral last year and like selling a checklist. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So like
Yep.
that's what I do overall. And then inside of it is the digital farming course. And years ago, I broke out like sort of like a light version of it that I've used as a freebie. So I have so many agents that have heard me talk about this and like listened to a short podcast or seen like a little manual that I created, but I decided to do something different. I've always wanted to do like a 3 day boot camp, like
Oh,
people do, in the online world of
yep.
like something more
Yep.
tactical. So that's why I'm doing this. So I'm doing a boot camp to help people actually launch their group
Awesome.
because you've alluded to this repeatedly. Like people get stuck when the group doesn't grow, when they don't
Yep.
know how to brand themselves, when they don't know what to say, they have no idea what to do for content because it's just not obvious,
Yes.
actually.
That's right.
So that is what the boot camp is meant to do. So I'm breaking it over 3 days. Like day one is strategy, launching the group, creating it. Day two is content. And day three is growth and lead capture. And by the third day, your group is up, running, growing. You have a plan and you can just run from there. So it's free. I'm just doing it to really like expand my reach, meet new agents. Maybe some of them will take my course, maybe not. And that's kind of like the whole story. So we'll put the link in the show
Amazing.
notes.
Yeah,
And
please. We
yeah,
definitely will. I was going to say, can you tell us where people can go to? We will put the link in the show notes, but can you tell us where they can go to sign up for the boot camp?
yes. So the best place to go would be to go to my Instagram and in my link in bio, it'll be right there at the top.
Perfect. You know what is so good about this is it is the specificity because I hear agents like, and we've both seen them, people promoting stuff. Oh, go to Etsy and you can get like 100 postcard templates for, $10. But it's just 100 templates that somebody made because they look good and there's zero input as to whether or
Conversion.
not they actually work, right? And then which one do I use? And what you've done here is you have broken this down to, like you said, it's like it's what you do that is proven to work, and now it is packaged and templated and systematized
Yeah, and I
for
just want to say,
everyone.
like, I'm not going to bore you with the details, but there's a reason I use Jotform and not Google Forms. And
Yep.
there's a reason my fields are built a certain way and ask certain questions. Like I've iterated my giveaway
Yes.
form like 30
Yes.
times to
Yeah.
convert.
Yep.
So that's the good news. It works.
I think people don't, and I know we keep saying we're going to wrap this up, but I think people take for granted a lot of times. They see you do something, right? They see me do something and they think, oh, that must be so easy. But they don't realize all of these things, all these moves, these are all done intentionally, right? Like you said, Jot form versus Google form is an intentional choice, right? Different things that we do in our group is an intentional choice. Different things that we do in our business with our team is an intentional choice. And people just don't realize that. And so kudos to you. I am so grateful for you for giving us so much time today and so much wisdom.
No, I'm grateful to you. Thank you. This has been
You're
such a fun conversation. I
you're
really appreciate
welcome.
it.
You're welcome. And so for the agent too that may have a referral for the Lutherville, Timonia, and Baltimore area, how do they reach you? How do they reach your team?
Yeah, honestly, the easiest way is probably just to DM me on the same Instagram account at High
Okay.
Performance Agent, or you can email me, Tina at tinabeliveau.com, and get connected. And yeah, agent referrals have actually become a huge part of my business with just being really active online with agents. So it's
Yeah.
really, honestly, it's been like a great gap filler with, the last couple of years where things have just
Yeah.
been lower unit count because so
Yep.
many people stayed in their
Yeah.
houses.
Yeah.
So I think some people don't want to have agent followers and friends on Facebook and Instagram. And if you really feel that way, that's fine. But
Yeah.
that is how I've created such like a huge lead
Yeah.
arm. So
Yeah.
I just want to encourage,
Yeah. I agree.
don't,
Same. I agree. I agree.
yeah. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening to Empowering Women in Real Estate, the podcast. Click subscribe to be notified every Wednesday when our latest episode is released, and be sure to check out our group on Facebook.